Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend DB who says, what would you consider a normal warm-up before kickboxing or Muay Thai training? I have been training for a while, but I find the warm-up more physically challenging than the actual training itself. Okay, I've been to gyms like that. I think I've taught some classes like that, but let's go on. Is that normal? Or should, as the term itself suggests, a warming up be just that? A way to prepare the body for the actual training. Love the videos and tips. Greetings from the Netherlands. Greetings right back at you, DB. Okay, so you got these super intense warm-ups that are wearing you out. This happened to me in my first martial arts classes. Back when I signed up for Taekwondo classes, the warm-ups were totally exhausting. And I remember resenting them a lot, thinking, if I could just skip these warm-ups, I could do so much better at the skill training, at the technique training, at the sparring, all this other stuff, because it just wore me out. There would be so much running and jumping around and plyometrics and push-ups and calisthenics, and it would go on and on and on for some time. And after a while, one of my coaches had this bright idea that we would do this super intense, like hour-long warm-up while wearing full sparring gear. And that Taekwondo sparring gear, it's a chest protector, helmet, what do you call that, headgear, forearm protectors, shin guards, groin protector, mouth guard. And he insisted we do that hour-long warm-up, that super intense warm-up, that exhaustive warm-up, wearing all of this stuff. Because that's what you compete in. That's what you spar in competition. You wear that gear, so you might as well wear it. So we put on several pounds of gear, and we're doing this warm-up, and I am just dying of dehydration under all of this, because it's so much harder than actual sparring. And I'm sweating, and I just want to rip it off. I'm like, I'm dying, I'm overheating. This guy is an idiot. What are we doing? And that was some of the most counterproductive training I ever had. Maybe it made me mentally tougher. Maybe it got me to the point where your sparring and all of this gear didn't feel so hot and annoying and heavy, if you will, but I wasn't getting anything positive, immediately positive out of training. And you should be. You should be getting some returns on your investment of time that you put in, right? I have warmed up many different ways. I've taught classes with all kinds of different warm-ups. Most of the time, what I do when I teach a group class, I do a pretty simple warm-up. It can range in time, but it's generally not exhaustive, although some people can't handle it, because everybody has a different level of athleticism. If you are already an athlete, my warm-up would be pretty simple, right? You rotate the joints, circle the arms, rotate the hips, do some dynamic stretching, right? Go through some movements, do some tumbling, and then you get ready to learn some technique and do some sparring and drills and things like that. Okay. But I have had students come in and they found, just circling their arms, rotating those around was really exhausting, because some people just don't move very much. So I'm assuming that you're not a weakling. I'm assuming you're not a beginner. I'm assuming you have a base of athleticism. And what you're telling me is that your warm-up is really hard, and it is demanding, and it's burning up your glycogen stores in your body and just leaving you feeling kind of dead. And if that warm-up is leaving you feeling dead the next day, that's counterproductive. Because you want to train to a level that you can come back the next day and do it again. And the next day and do it again, and come back every day and do it again, and add to your arsenal every single day. Add to your game, add to your athleticism every single day. Because if you wear yourself out, if you wear yourself to the bone, with a warm-up or anything else you do in training, to the point where you don't want to come back in the gym again, or you physically can't, or it would be physically counterproductive not to stay home and lick your wounds, then that's not good training, man. That's a bad training habit. So many theories about warming up. One of my old coaches, he's inspired me a lot with his warm-ups. His warm-ups basically consist of a gymnastics tumbling routine with gradations of skill depending on the students there. And he teaches a jiu-jitsu class and has some amazing grapplers train with him. And, it's tumbling. Like starting out with simple rolls, moving to more complex rolls. If you can't do the complicated stuff, you work on the simple progressions until you can get to the more complex stuff. And so if you walked in that gym for the first time and saw these people doing backflips and handsprings across the mat, and you've never done that, you might be like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. This is crazy. This is too much. Until you look at the gradations of skill level leading up to that. Because obviously, my friend understands, you don't just walk in off the street doing backflips. You got to work up to that, right? But if it is the objective of your coach to wear you out, there could be some wisdom behind that. What I've said up to right now might make it sound like, this is a bad idea. But there may be some wisdom behind that, depending on what the major emphasis of this class is. There are 3 things that win fights: athleticism, aggression, and technique. And you want to focus on that third one, on the technique. You want to put all your time and attention and energy into that technique. And it sounds like your coach is putting a lot of stock in developing athleticism through this warm-up. And you might feel like, I'm athletic enough. But consider the possibility. Consider the possibility that maybe you're not. Not yet. Consider the possibility that maybe your coach is exercising some wisdom because maybe he knows you a little better than this guy talking to you on the internet who's never met you in person knows you. And maybe he knows that what you need is to be a better athlete, to have more stamina. And perhaps at this point in your game, maybe that is more important than being able to fine-tune some of your technical attributes. And then again, he may be a terrible coach. Who knows? You are the one who knows him. You are the one who's been there. Does this guy have your best interest in mind or not? I remember I walked in the gym one day and my student said, "What are we doing today, coach?" And I said, "Push-ups, 100,000 push-ups." And most of the students laughed and chuckled like, really, what are we doing? And then one of them, my assistant coach, drops to the floor without any question, starts doing push-ups. And I look at him like, wow. Man, I like all my students, but man, that dude, that's one that I love. And he didn't stop until I asked him to stop. I said, "All right, man. Stand up. Let's do some technique here." Whew. There is a time and a place for a warm-up, if you will, a warm-up that will challenge you. There is a time and a place to wear yourself to the bone. Sometimes you need that. It's kind of like sometimes you need hard sparring. Most of the time you don't. Most of your sparring should be light and technical. But once in a while, and I gotta be careful about how I say this because there are some impressionable young people who might get the wrong idea. I'm talking about fighters. Actual fighters training for fights. Once in a while, they need to go harder. They need to push themselves, not just physically, but mentally. They need to understand that their will is stronger than their body. What are you getting out of your warm-up? There are a lot of stupid warm-ups out there with busy work and junk training. A lot of silly movements that don't make you a better athlete, they don't make you more technical, and they certainly don't make you more intelligently aggressive in a fight. If your warm-up wears you out, but it accomplishes those three things, makes you a better athlete, more technical, and more intelligently aggressive, that's a good warm-up. All of the movements that I use in my warm-ups relate directly to fighting. All of them. A lot of people think it's busy work because they're doing these solo movements, these solo drills and so on. And there is gymnastic movement that I use, a lot of gymnastic movement I use in these, and they're like, we don't do cartwheels in fights. All of the movements that I teach in my warm-ups are combative movements. Somebody asked me a while back if I invented my own kata or form, like a traditional martial arts form for MMA, what would it be? And the answer to that is it would be the warm-up that I already teach. It's my kata, if you will. It's my forms. And what that does, it gives my students this vocabulary of movement that they can go back on. Right? When we're doing tumbling and rolling across the floor, we'll do Granby rolls, for example. If you don't know what that is, maybe I'll make a video about it someday. Granby rolls, super important grappling positional technique. And sometimes we'll be grappling, and I'll see somebody in a position, and I'll say, hit a Granby roll right there. And then they'll do it, even though they've never done it in combat before, in sparring before. And then they'll be like, holy crap, that put me in a better position. That thing from the warm-up. We'll do lots of sit-outs in the warm-ups. And I see somebody in sprawl control, I'll call out, sit out. They'll sit out just like in the warm-up, and boom, they're out. They're in a better position, and their eyes open wide as saucers. Whoa! The warm-ups work. The warm-ups have a reason. It's not just busy work to make you sweaty. It makes you stronger, it makes you more technical, and it makes you more intelligently aggressive, able to put yourself in better positions consistently. So, word of advice to coaches out there wondering how to structure a good warm-up. Make sure it reinforces those three things, and if it doesn't, skip it. Throw it in the junk training bin. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.